Penn State versus Illinois. Chris, what do you think about Penn State in this one?
I'll tell you what, Christian, I'll run down a little stats here. I'm very high on Penn State. I have been, in the preseason. I think this is probably their year personally. I know probably the Penn State man saying, well, everybody's been saying that for the last, 10 years with James Franklin. But Penn State, they're off to a decent start. I think they've done kind of what they need to with the 2-0 start. They beat West Virginia. It looked a little shaky in the first half, I think, of that game, Christian. But they end up winning that one 38-15. Week 2. Did what they needed to do against a middle school elementary team in Delaware, 63-7. They played a lot of second and third stringers. I mean, which is obvious, and that's what they're supposed to do when you're Penn State. But the big thing here is like what I've noticed so far with Penn State. The play of Drew Aller, right? I mean, he's looked great. I think finally we've talked about this, that they look like they finally got a real good quarterback back there. He was highly recruited. He's 43, I think, of 55 so far this year, 529 yards, 4 TDs, and no turnovers. That's huge. You don't typically see that the last couple of years out of a Penn State quarterback. Usually it's been ground and pound, rely on that defense. This year, obviously, we know about the 2 running backs, right? Keatron Allen, Nick Singleton. These guys got like almost 300 yards, I think, between them, 5 touchdowns. They're doing what they need to do on the ground. The big thing here, though, is Penn State's defense, Christian, in this game. I think they're 12th in the country right now in yards, given up per game, right around 225. Very impressive. But again, begs the question, okay, you guys really haven't played anybody. We're going to find out against this Illinois team. Illinois loves to run the ball. We know that, and I'm going to let you dig into Illinois here in a second. But going into this, Christian, I look at Penn State, and I'm high on them. I think they're 14.5-point favorites in Champaign. What's your thoughts on Illinois here? I mean, we know what they didn't do last week. Break that down for me, if you would, sir.
Yeah, so, my thoughts on Illinois, Chris, I mean, they're coming off 2 really disappointing performances, I feel like. I mean, they almost lost to Toledo. That was a close game right there in and of its own right. And, I mean, they got beat by Kansas last week. I mean, I get it. Kansas is, it's not the Kansas of old times, right? That's a meme, but still – for what we thought Illinois was going to be coming into this year, still a really disappointing way to lose there. Illinois gave up 262 yards rushing to Kansas. And I can only imagine what Penn State's going to be able to do in this one, right? That's surprising, dude, for me, because Illinois had one of the best defenses in the country last year, right? I mean, you look at just about all the statistical categories, and they were really solid. But this year, man, I mean, it's looking like a different Illinois team. I mean, Ole Miss transfer quarterback Luke Altmaier. I mean, he looked rough last week. He had 2 interceptions, right? And a QBR of 38.2. Part of that was because, the receivers kind of ball hit off his hands, popped up, boom, pick. But still, man, when you got a 38.2 QBR, I mean, it's not always 100% on the line. It's not always 100% on the receivers. Because, I mean, I went back and looked at that game. He had time to make decisions in that game. So I do have to put some of the blame right there. Here's the other side that makes it really tough, Chris. It's a theme that we kind of touch on, and that's Altmaier's leading the team right now in rushing, right? So Reggie – wow. Yeah. I mean, he's – you can see it right there. 22 carries, 139 yards. I mean, he's got to, they've got to get running back Reggie Love a little bit more involved in this one to take some pressure off of him. Just somebody to get more involved in this game to take a lot more of the pressure off of him. Chris, what are your final score predictions for this one?
Christian, like I said, I agree with what you said about Illinois. Defenses look just totally opposite of what they did last year. And I think that's going to, honestly, against a good Penn State team here, let's be honest. Give me Penn State 38, Christian. Illinois 13. I think Penn State's defense is going to play lights out. I think they're going to pound the ball. Kansas had a lot of success, as you mentioned, on the ground against Illinois. Christian, I'd like to hear your thoughts, see where we kind of stand on this one.
We're close. We're really close on this one. Before I give my prediction, I'm going to say this. Would it shock me if Illinois comes out here and they they upset Penn State, or hell, they don't even have to upset them, but play them really, really close? No, it would not, because it's a weird year of football, and football in general can be a weird sport, especially college football. So, yeah, that would not shock me. But My final score prediction is going to be Penn State 45, Illinois 21.
Okay. Woo. Cool. A little bit of a shootout there. Some points being scored there, Christian.